Good evening. Welcome to the City of Merritt's Committee of the Whole meeting held in Council Chambers, 6 p.m. Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022. I would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that we're gathered on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of Inklakatmuk and Silk people. There is one motion needed for adoption of the minutes of the whole meeting on April 25th, 2022. Do I have a mover? White and Fair. And any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'll call a question. Pardon?
Which meetings are you, Worship?
On April 25th, 2022. Did I maybe grab the...
Yep, that's the May 3rd meeting, so this is the minutes of the May 3rd meeting, Your Worship.
Okay. Today is not May the 3rd.
Today is May 31st, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Would you like this agenda?
I thought I had it. So I'm asking for the minutes to be adopted on May 3rd, 2022. We still have Councillor White and Councillor Fair. And any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'll ask the question. All in favor? Opposed? None. Carried. Okay, I had the wrong side. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That makes more sense.
This is Tuesday, May 31st, in case anyone online is wondering what day this is. We are looking at new business 5.1, and we're looking at the draft economic development strategy. And Ms. Moore, would you so kindly give us that report?
Thank you, Your Worship. Carry on. Great, that works. Before we get into the meat of the presentation, I do want to take a second to acknowledge the funding that we received for my position, which has been the majority of which time has been working on the economic development strategy. And that funding has come from the Economic Trust of the Southern Interior of BC, or ETSI BC. So really want to thank them for supporting us to get this project through, and also to support some other smaller economic development initiatives over the last year. I also want to thank those who have participated and provided input into the strategy so far. Your efforts and contributions are greatly appreciated. This evening I'm going to go through what the process of developing the strategy has been to date. We'll talk about the vision, mission, and guiding principles for the strategy, key priorities and strategies, implementation and action plan. We'll look at the appendices and then talk about the next steps. I do plan to pause for questions, but if at any time you have questions and I haven't paused, please feel free to interrupt. So I started this position in late June, actually June 28th of 2021, and got right down to reviewing documents, lots of city plans, mostly economic development related plans, and some of these are referred to within this document as well. That carried on through to September 2021, and then we kicked off with the community engagement at the September 18th street market on Quilchena, and then carried on from there with industry sector focus groups. We had 16 scheduled. We were doing small groups because we had fluctuating COVID-19 health restrictions. So they were small group sessions, focus groups that went over the course of the 2 months of October, November. And I did a couple of workshops with MVIT, one in a specific class, and then one lunch and learn later in April of this year. Some of our engagement activities were interrupted, of course, by the flood and the subsequent response and recovery efforts after that. Document drafting began in February and carried on through till almost today. And there's more to do. The organization of the document, I just want to talk a little bit about that. There is some background or information in the first 10 pages, and then there's a lot more information, environmental scan, SWOT analysis, how the strategy links to other documents, all of that comes up later in the appendices. But I just wanted to note that because some of the beginning stuff you might be thinking, there's some information missing. We wanted to get down to the meat of the document quickly. Also want to note too that it is a 10-year strategy. So some of these goals and actions that we have planned seem far out into the future, and some of them are. So we'll come back to that as well in a little bit. So we'll talk about the vision, mission, and guiding principles. The vision is the future that we aim to achieve through the strategies and actions of this plan. Our draft vision right now is Merritt has a sustainable, resilient, and diverse economy with a vibrant city center, clean industry, and high-paying jobs. The mission is how we will achieve this vision, and specifically the mission in this document is how the city will contribute to this. And throughout the plan, you will see that economic development is not just a city function. So we do have actions that are led by other organizations and agencies in the community, but this mission is more specific to how the city can support economic development. And I'm going to read this one as well. The City of Merritt supports the growth of a strong, resilient, and diverse local economy through the implementation of clear policies and regulations that facilitate growth and development in targeted industry sectors and in the city center, infrastructure improvements that encourage development, business attraction and retention initiatives, and excellent communication with key stakeholders, First Nations, and the broader community. The guiding principles are the things that we've taken into consideration when drafting the strategies and action items and overall guide the tone of the document. The 6 guiding principles are reconciliation, diversity, equity, and inclusion, communication, strength and resiliency, and our city center is the economic heart of the community. Any questions on the vision, mission, and guiding principles, or any thoughts, suggestions?
Doesn't seem to be at this point.
Okay. All right. You may recognize these key priorities. The key priorities follow from the 2022 OCP, and I know you've all become very familiar with that document over the last year plus. These 5 priorities were identified in the economic prosperity section of the document, and they are promote a vibrant city center, economic diversification and growth, business attraction and retention, increase residential housing supply in the city center and urban villages, and commercialization of the Merritt Airport area. There are several strategies under each priority area, and we'll look at those in a moment. And under each strategy, there are several actions, which you'll find in the implementation and action plan. So, priority area 1, promote a vibrant city center. This is the largest priority area in terms of strategies and actions, and it's a key focus, as we said in our guiding principles, that our city center will be the economic heart of the community. There are 18 strategies and 73 actions. I will not read all 18 strategies. I'll put you to sleep. Well, hopefully not. Hopefully they're exciting. But the strategies in this section relate to city center revitalization, installing public washrooms to support more activities and events in the city center, encouraging those events and regular programming throughout the year, specifically on Quilchena Avenue and in Spirit Square. The strategies also point to improvements to public space that will make Spirit Square, Quilchena Avenue, and the lane that runs between the two a more comfortable place for pedestrians to spend time and participate in activities and events. And there are also strategies to encourage development as well as encourage more retail and restaurant businesses along Quilchena Avenue, and to encourage more food trucks and mobile businesses in our commercial center. As you can also see on this slide, these strategies also include the implementation of the revitalization tax exemption bylaw, a facade improvement program, a business improvement area for Quilchena, potentially, once it's researched. And the final strategy under priority area 1 is one that fits with the long-term vision that I mentioned earlier, but requires implementation of several or all of the previous strategies to really make it happen. And that one is transform Quilchena Avenue into a shared street or pedestrian street. That's a big one. Yeah, please.
And, yeah, okay.
What exactly is a business improvement area?
It's a good question. We did have some of this workshopping, I think, with the Economic Development Committee about a year ago, probably, maybe a little bit more. So a business improvement area is, it's a group of property owners, basically, that contribute funding to support it. And often they support different initiatives than a city can support, and or different initiatives than a Chamber of Commerce would support. It does require the City Council to approve a bylaw to have the formation of the business improvement area. When I had mentioned the suggestion that it would be Quilchena Avenue, it might not be, right? It might be a broader area. That would all be part of researching it. And this initiative of the business improvement area came up quite a while ago, and at least as far back as 2008 with the city center plan back in that date. I'm not sure what happened after that. I know there was some work that was done and it didn't form. So it does require the acceptance by the property owners, but it enables things like safety improvements, cleanliness improvements, and things like that.
And I think one of the other major issues is that it's funded through a member-based property tax levy.
Right. Okay.
Mr. Lois.
Thank you, Worship. Just to add into what Ms. Moore has said, so the BIA is set up under the Community Charter, and one of the things that we're allowed to do as a local government is to, with the consent of the local businesses, levy a local tax in a specific area, and then use that. There's a list of schemes that we're allowed to carry out, such as improving, beautifying, or maintaining streets, sidewalks, or land, removal of graffiti, conserving heritage property, and encouraging business. So the idea is essentially that we take an area of the city, we charge additional funds to people in that area and beforehand get their consent to do it, and then we use that money to promote and improve specifically that area with an aim to making it more commercially viable, better businesses, more pleasant to be in, etc.
Okay.
We've got quite a hum in the background.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for priority area 1?
Councillor Christopherson.
Yeah, just with the Business Improvement Association, it's my understanding that when they are levied a tax and so on, that they also have quite a strong voice in suggesting improvements into the area. Is it not? They've got quite a strong voice to direct how those funds would be used?
Yeah, I believe it's run by its own separate board or council. Those
I just raised that because I wouldn't want people to think, oh, here's another tax and somebody else gets to spend it when they're levied that amount of money, that they have a real voice in how it would be used.
I should also mention we do have some grant funds that were allocated to exploring this. I'm trying to remember which year, but it's one of the rural development grants that we still have some funds to work with. And in talking with Mr. MacArthur, we anticipate it would cost more than what we have to actually implement the business improvement area, but there is a starting funds to explore that.
Before we go to Councillor Christopherson again, can I ask Mr. MacArthur why you think that? Is it because we don't have a current chamber, or?
Thank you, Your Worship. I believe the funds are, is it 40,000?
It's 30,000.
30,000. So $30,000 for the number of engagement meetings that would likely be required, because of course the property owners would have to be on side with a BIA, but also there will probably be some business owners that aren't the property owners that would like to have a say in that as well. And so I would assume that we would have a quite extensive period of dialogue, and because of that $30,000 would likely be used up fairly easily. So we had applied to Flinrod when Flinrod still existed, before it was split across multiple ministries, for some additional funds. And there could be additional funds coming from the province in the future, but yeah, certainly 30,000 is a place to start with, right? We could certainly start the dialogue towards implementing a BIA, but it's likely that there might need to be some more funds. So.
Thank you. Councillor Christopherson.
Just one more thing. In your research and dealing with businesses and so on, have you detected any enthusiasm expressed by business owners in pursuing anything yet, or is it still an idea that is being broached to them and hopefully generate that enthusiasm?
I think business owners may be excited about it, but it's the property owners that might be the challenge, and then part of that is then getting that mix, filling those storefronts, because if they don't have typically, I hope it's okay to say this, but typically the property owner would pass the tax down to the business owner. The cost of their lease might go up, but if there's more business being generated, it would be worth it. So when we have some empty storefronts or vacant parcels of land in the city center, it's challenging to implement the business improvement area. So it's sort of chicken and egg, I think, a little bit. You need one to support the other.
I agree with that. I think we're probably a little bit too early for BIA at this point in time, but as we move along our implementation, it'll get to be more and more attractive for those that are down there.
So, could I follow up on that? Just, we've got quite a few business properties and empty storefronts downtown that are owned by absentee landowners. Mm-hmm. Is that an impediment to getting a business improvement association going?
It just might be time consuming, as Mr. MacArthur mentioned. You can, yeah, if you want to
we'll
add to that.
have Mr. MacArther speak to that. Thank
Sorry
you.
to ask a horrible question.
No, thank you, Councillor Christopherson, through your worship. It can be either or. So, for example, if a property owner has a vacant parcel, having a BIA, a parcel tax that would go towards that could incentivize them to fill that space, right? Because that way they're actually having an income that can pay for that. But also it could be an impediment to setting up the BIA in the first place. So because they are paying a parcel tax for what? They're not getting a benefit from it if they don't have a tenant or if they have a vacant parcel. So like Ms. Moore mentioned, a bit of a chicken and egg there. So I think a lot of the dialogue initially with a BIA will be around convincing property owners that it's beneficial for them. But as your worship mentioned, I think we are a little bit too early because we need more of a business mix, especially in Quilchena. If you have more restaurants, if you have more retail stores, those are the types of stores that would, or businesses that would typically benefit very much from a BIA. Whereas, a bank or a pharmacy or these types of businesses that already have their loyal customers might not benefit as much from BIA type of programming. So once we have a bit more of a business mix that we're looking for in the city center, then it will become more and more attractive, I think, for property owners.
Okay, I'm still a little hesitant as far as with absentee property owners, how you can get them on board. Because I think in a lot of cases it's basically a property investment, and they may not be. In fact, some of them have been resistant to having businesses move in and so on, and I think it's been a real struggle for the downtown area of how do you get absentee property owners on board looking at this as something that's in their best interest too. So,
I think before we answer that, we've got to do an awful lot of consultation on the other side of things to look at what the mix possibly should be. So I think we have to do a little bit more work before we can even answer that question, unless you've got a miracle answer, Mr. MacArthur.
Well, no. I mean, you're spot on, Your Worship, and I think too part of the funds that would be used for the BIA would be to hire somebody that would be doing those negotiations. It also creates a bit of a neutral party. So it's not the city imposing something. It's not, it's a person that can go and talk to everyone and try to reach some sort of consensus. But as Your Worship mentioned, I don't believe we're there yet either. And so that grant is something that I know Ms. Moore is on her other hat on the grant side, will be asking the province to roll that money over at least until next year so that we can keep those funds, but maybe use them in a little bit of a future date. So,
thank you. Councillor Luck.
Thank you, So absentee landlords that don't have anybody leasing their buildings, they would be probably the struggle they'd have because they don't want to pay the additional tax. If a landlord has a tenant in the building, normally those leases would be triple net, meaning the business owner pays the taxes, insurance, and maintenance. So the business owner, the business that's in there would be paying that additional BIA tax. So that circle would have to be squared because to get a BIA, what is it, 50% plus one of the businesses in an area? Is that the number, or is it, Greg, have you got that?
Mr. Lewis?
It's one of those fun, complicated things. So BIA is, the way a BIA works is the organization is set up to run it, and then the municipality gives them a grant funding to do it, and then we may or must recover that through a tax on the local area. Mm-hmm. And so as a local area tax, it's subject to rules similar to the ones you're actually just going through at Exit 286 at the moment, where either the landowners in question can petition in favour, or we can go about setting it up subject to petition against. And so there's multiple different ways that you can get either positive approval on request or negative approval through people not standing up in opposition. But that's also the kind of complicated technicalities that you probably don't want to get into until long after you've decided whether or not this is a good idea that you want to be pursuing.
Good idea to go, yeah. So just one last question then is, what is the difference between a BIA and a DBA? Or have they kind of melded in and pretty much the same thing now, Don?
Well, it's really the legal structure is a big part of it.
Oh,
right?
is that we're differentiate? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so a BIA would be a formal bylaw, and where the city sets that up, and there's a board that the BIA and those funds are collected through a parcel tax, and then basically transferred to the board's use, right?
Right.
Whereas a DBA would be set up as a nonprofit. It doesn't have a formal structure like a BIA does. And so they can still voluntarily contribute to it and all of that. But yeah, so it's really how the legal structure of it works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you for that clarity. Thank you.
Councillor White.
I think Councillor Luck sort of kind of asked this question, but the business owners or the building owners that have buildings that refuse to rent them out, there's a couple of them downtown. What do you do with those?
Mr. McCarthy, this is back to you.
You're just asking all the hard questions tonight. So thank you, Councillor White, through your worship. I don't know. We live in a democratic society, and we can't really force people to do what they want with their parcel. They can sort of do what they want, and so if they don't want to rent it out, then they don't have to, and that's one of the challenges, is to to convince people that it's in their best interest to do so. And I think really, if we create a more vibrant downtown over time, if we have a better business mix, it's really going to incentivize that. Because why would you have a vacant parcel, or why would you have a vacant building if you could have a business, especially if there's the demand there, right? Mm-hmm. And creating a more vibrant city center is going to create that demand. We don't have that right now. I mean, we do have demand for commercial space, so we have organizations all the time that need space, but we don't have the vibrancy downtown that we need to create that sort of successful sort of business mix or space or neighborhood that we want it to be. So I think a lot of these things resolve themselves as we work through some of the other issues that are needing to be addressed: housing downtown, a different business mix on Quilchana, more things like bike racks and street trees and all these things that make it a pleasant place to be, event programming, right? Whether it be in Spirit Square or on Quilchana. Of course, we had our first farmers market of the season on Quilchana, and we'll have those monthly through the year. And as we create more of that vibrancy or a feeling of where people really want to spend time downtown, it really will solve itself. But there's a lot of hurdles first to go over to get there. So it's not going to be a short process to transform the city center into what we want it to be, but I think we're on the right track anyways. And so
if there's a solid plan for the downtown through the city, is there not some kind of a bylaw that if you want a building down there, you have to follow the rules?
There are regulations that we can put in place to make things even more sort of rigid or strict, but in terms of processes for requiring people to have, I'm not sure if we can do a vacancy. Like the City of Vancouver can do that because they have a special charter, right? We have to work on convincing people through conversations and
that it's a worthwhile endeavor.
Yeah.
And again, we're just not there yet.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, carrots are usually better than sticks anyway. Yeah.
Great. Okay, thank you. That's great discussion. Thanks for the support from the other staff. Priority area 2, economic diversification and growth. This section has 6 strategies and 54 actions. Strategy 2.1 is to target key industry sectors for diversification and growth. And these industry sectors were selected based on a number of factors, including the opportunity for growth, the competitive advantages that Merritt has to offer specific industries, the current mix of existing businesses and industries, consultation with business owners, managers, and business support agencies, and those industries that we have a historical strength in. We have 8 targeted industry sectors, but the 4 that have the greatest opportunity for implementing diversification and growth exist within construction, light manufacturing, tourism and entertainment, and transportation, warehousing, and logistics. So these 4 will be the focus, especially for business investment attraction initiatives in the short to medium term. Other strategies in priority area 2. These ones I'm going to read because there's just 5 more, and they sort of summarize themselves better than I could do otherwise. So 2.2, determine priority industry sector challenges, opportunities, and gaps, and work with businesses to find solutions that integrate industries and strengthen supply chains. So working to support those businesses that we already have while we're doing this expansion and diversification. 2.3, develop public infrastructure to support a vibrant local economy and competitive business environment. 2.4, identify opportunities to support the expansion and range of programs and services at the Merritt campus of the Nicola Valley Institute of Technology. And that again would be focusing on those priority industry sectors. So what sort of training and education programs are they already offering that feed into those industry sectors, and what are their plans for expanding those programs? 2.5, encourage entrepreneurial opportunities through support for creative workplace solutions. And I have a picture from the Okanagan CoLab up here in case you're wondering what is that. So co-workspace is a great opportunity for trying to attract professionals that are looking for space. We don't have a lot of single office lease space available. So that's one potential option, is co-workspace. And 2.6, explore the possibility of establishing shared food production and agricultural resources. And we all know that some funding came through for area abattoir, but this would include other things as well. So potential for shared storage facility or other types of processing facilities as well. Oh, and I moved on already. Oh, and I moved on twice. Hang on. I had a fast click there.
Before you move on, is there any questions on this section?
Let's go previous.
Doesn't seem to be. Oh, sorry. Councillor Etcher.
Well, I know at Silga, a lot of the food production was a big concern that we had discussed, because food security for area when you have wildfire and whatnot is a big concern, especially when we had the flood and restricted access for travel and everything like that. So was there much in here like for a suggestion about how and where, or
so
we could have something
yeah, so under the actions, really getting the stakeholders together to discuss what it is they need or what they would use. Aside from the abattoir, we know there was a lot of discussions that came before that funding was granted, and so now it's looking at what other facilities or resources do they need. So that's sort of the first step. It's not something we could prescribe without having those deeper conversations with the food producers, but definitely, I mean, the flooding and fires brought that food security issue to light, and we also have some other under those the industry sector focuses in 2.2. We have some other focus for food security about encouraging other property owners. So even in all the residential zones, we have zoning bylaw that enables property owners to grow food, vertical farming, indoor farming. So we have some great, our zoning bylaw is really great. I've got to learn parts of it really well. And there's lots of opportunities for businesses and for sort of micro businesses as well. So,
thanks. Thank you.
No
Okay, that
other
seems to be it
comments?
for this section.
Okay. Moving on to priority area 3, business attraction and retention. This section has 7 strategies and 34 actions. The first of these strategies is really about working with our business support agencies to support and retain existing businesses, and we got a nice picture from Community Features Nicola Valley. It also includes Merritt District Chamber of Commerce, Work BC, even NBIT, and the school district to sort of support our businesses going forward. 3.2 is about attracting people, whether they are prospective business owners or workers, so showcasing what we have to offer in Merritt and why it's a great place to live and do business. And 3.3 speaks to having...
Can I stop you with this one?
Sure.
I think one of the things I keep hearing from people outside of Merritt is how bad our online Facebook streams are, and it is stopping people from wanting to settle here. It is stopping them from wanting to come and start a business here. And I don't know, there's just a few, I don't know, there's a keyboard warriors, and I have no idea what to do about it, but I know that the economy suffers because of it.
And it is unfortunate that we do have some more negative focused commentary on Facebook. I know there are people who have tried to start the positive focus Facebook groups, and I think some of those are getting momentum. I don't follow the negative. I just shut it off. But how you stop that negative, I'm not sure. But there are a lot of people in the community that really, really care. And just anecdotally, at the street market, we asked people what they loved most about Merritt, and there was some really, really positive answers. And one person wrote everything. So I think we hear those negative comments more often than they actually represent. And
Well, it's not so much us hearing them.
No,
It's
others
outside world hearing them,
Yeah.
and determining that that's who we are.
Yeah.
Councillor White.
Even on the Merritt rentals, somebody who, I don't know if it's the administrator or whoever it is, but said, like, stay away from Merritt. Like, we've got our own problems here, and we don't have houses to live in, and I don't, it's really long anyhow. And I thought, there has to be a way to stop that kind of stuff. And I think they need to be reported to Facebook. Apparently you can do that, but it has to be somebody in the city that does it. It can't just be but you can report them to Facebook and get some of that stuff taken off. And I think that's what needs to happen. But I also I don't follow the grapevine, but every once in a while it pops up if one of my friends comments or something, I'll see stuff. But I am seeing a lot more positive comments from people saying, like, you know, like, basically give your head a shake kind of thing, and really challenging them in a positive way. So, but that's a long process, because there's like 6,000 people on that.
Yeah, but there's not 6,000 negative people. There's very few negative people. Councillor Christopherson.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there is a way to actively counter the negative with just information of this is wrong. I think of somebody who was interviewed on TV not too long ago saying, oh, the city has done absolutely nothing for me. And I think, well, did you drink the water? Did you go poop? Did you drive on a road? Did you turn on the gas? You know, and that's the city functions, to make sure that those things happen. But we don't go around onto private property and rebuild things for people. In fact, half the time you get kicked off of private property if you try to enter it. So I think maybe we need to have an active way of countering the negative, not necessarily joining the criticism, but just saying, no, this is the facts, this is what we do, and getting that message out.
Refer them back to our website. But it's still, that may happen once we find a communications officer.
Yeah, because I think we actively need to counter the negative, because it is a relatively small voice out there, but it's a loud voice.
Yeah.
And we do have actions within the implementation and action plan that do speak to improving the image. There's a lot of promote, but it's true. And that came out of our community engagement sessions too, is that we need to tell people how great it is here. And I mean, the people that came to the community engagement sessions are obviously engaged, right? They are the positive, they're the community boosters. So just getting all of those of us to be more vocal about it.
Mr. MacArthur?
Yeah, and I don't want to wade in on the grapevine or the comments that are there. It's not a very great space a lot of the time. But in terms of just the community itself, I think there's so many people here that love this community, and I'm one of them. While I may not be in my role here at the city much longer, I am planning to stay and be a resident here, and hopefully rebuild my home. And I think if we really try to spread positive messaging and do a lot of more promotion about what is so great about this community, that will shine through eventually, and I think there are a lot of people that do want to see the positive and want to talk about the positive and want to share the positive, but there certainly are some negative voices here, and when I moved here in 2019, I experienced that. I came here and I said I was thinking of moving here, and what do you love about the community, and what do you love to do here, and I got negative responses, and these are people that were working in restaurants and hotels and retail stores, and to me that was a bit of an alarm, and I decided to put it aside because there were so many great positive voices that I also heard. But I think we need to, as a community, talk about the positive more often, and really spend time promoting the positive, and eventually the positive will win over. I really do believe that. So
I believe that as well. In time. It looks like that's it.
Okay, there is more in this in this area. Let me flip my page. So the next few strategies, we're looking at working collaboratively with the school district and NVIT and the business community to connect graduates with employment opportunities within the community, both to help keep young talent here and to support that business attraction and retention. So if they can, we're all having staffing challenges. It's not a Merritt problem, it's at least a BC problem, if not a lot broader than that. But if we can keep our young people here, then we can sort of contribute to our own growth by getting those people through their graduation and then hiring them in local businesses.
And I think Salmon Arm through Silga had a great group presenters on this very thing about getting connected with school district, having the students getting their graduation program credits for entering a program like this, with some of the main industries actually taking these kids on as mentors, and by the time they were finished school, then they could get a trade, but they also had the need for Red Seal. And I don't know that MVIT is going to get there as fast as we need them to be. We may end up also having to deal with TRU at the same time, not just MVIT.
Perhaps. I do know that the school district and NBIT are working really closely together, so that part's already happening, but I'm just going to make a note about TRU as well. Yeah. Also on the workforce issue, one of our strategies is to create a regional workforce development strategy, and I know that recently happened in Vernon, and so how every community tackles it is a little bit different. And as a regional strategy, it wouldn't just be Merritt, it'd be the Nicola Valley, it would include our First Nations, neighbors, and other areas of TNRD. 3.6 is about creating another resource to support business attraction, having an understanding of available commercial and industrial lands and the infrastructure that services these lands. And then also having that information readily available for businesses that are making inquiries or prospective businesses. And finally, supporting both existing businesses and business attraction, creating main entrances and gateways into the city, identifying welcome to Merritt, and here's our city center in really nice, beautiful signage. And I know that's been part of council's priority for a while. Any other questions on priority area 3?
Doesn't seem to be.
Okay, priority area 4, increase residential housing supply in the city center and urban villages. This priority area has 5 strategies and 17 actions. Housing, like workforce, is another key priority for the city, but it's another issue that's not just Merritt, and it's beyond the province as well. This section really focuses on the relationship of housing to economic development, so we're not just talking about housing, it's how it works with economic development. Available affordable housing is an important factor in attracting new businesses, especially medium to large employers, as they want to know that there will be places for staff to live. These strategies also support increasing the vibrancy of our commercial centers as they encourage multi-unit residential and mixed-use commercial in the city center and urban villages. And we know that city centers are more vibrant when people are living in the neighborhood and accessing the amenities on a daily basis. The final 2 strategies in this section go beyond economic development, but as I mentioned, having sufficient housing and affordable housing is an important component to attracting businesses. And the housing affordability study informs the housing strategy. And that's that for priority area 4. Any questions, suggestions, input?
There doesn't seem to be any questions. We know housing is a high priority for us right now. Higher than high.
Beyond high. All right. I can't say priority anymore. Priority area 5, commercialization of the Merritt Airport area. This section has 7 strategies and 33 actions, and it's really about maximizing the potential of the Merritt Airport and the commercial and industrial lands surrounding it. There are several business opportunities that have been identified for these lands, including flight-based tourism businesses, opportunities for ground transportation or distribution hub, opportunities to expand the airport use for potential flight school or expanded wildfire support services, and other uses by businesses and residents. There may also be opportunities for airport-related businesses that offer activities for children and families in that focus of ours of trying to attract young families to the community. We know that there is... Sure?
I was just going to say, I agree. We need young families here. One of the problems with young families is we have lack of health care, lack of delivery of infants, and we're not going to end up having that till we at least hit the 12,000 population mark. We won't even be looked at by IHA, which is a struggle because that's not going to happen according to what, 2040 or something like that? So attracting young families without the healthcare facility is very, very difficult, but maybe there are other options we need to explore. And I have no idea what they are at this point, but I think we have to continue to explore those options.
Yeah.
Councillor White.
Well, not only the healthcare, the sports for young kids is not here either. There is some, but
The higher level sports, you mean?
yeah, they've got to drive to Kamloops for it.
I'm well aware of that game. Yeah, and that too we'll work on as soon as we get more population, we'll be able to put more programs in. It seems a far distant, way into the distant future at this point, but one step at a time, that's all we can do. Well, maybe 2 or 3 if everyone's doing different things.
I think too, that's part of that promotion of what makes Merritt an attractive place to live. Growing up here, I didn't know all the benefits I got from growing up here until I left. And so even though I also went to Kamloops regularly for some of my activities, there's a lot of great things about growing up in a community this size and with all our access to outdoor recreation and even our own municipal facilities, some that weren't here when I was growing up.
Yeah.
We've got some fantastic facilities here too. So
I was going to say that the pool that we had when I grew up was the one in Vote Park that I swear they froze the water before they put it in the pool. It was straight from the river, and that's what we swam in.
Well, I had Centennial Pool, but I didn't have the indoor pool. And an indoor pool in a community this size is a fantastic amenity for families. I mean,
I agree. It is an awesome place to grow up.
Yeah, so we have to think of our positive things that we have. And we'll grow from there. Carrying on with 5, we know that there's potential funding opportunities, some that are coming up soon, we hope, to support airport improvements and expansion, and we'll continue to watch those to ensure that we apply for needed improvements, such as specifically lighting and fencing. The installation of hangars on the runway and the adjacent lands to the runway, could also present economic opportunities for both the city-owned lease lots, and for other property owners along that runway. 5.6, updating the zoning bylaw to rezone the properties adjacent to the airport runway for airport commercial helps to direct the kind of development that we want in that area, and could also potentially support developing other areas of the city in the way that we want. So you're sort of restricting uses of those properties to develop the businesses that we want out there. And finally, leveraging the airport committee's knowledge, experience, and connections will assist in realizing the economic potential of the Merritt Airport area. So that is all of the priority areas with their strategies. Before I move on to the next slide, any comments or input?
There doesn't seem to be.
Okay, that's good. We're going to make it, I think. So in the implementation and action plan, which begins on, let me just check here. I remember. Oh, that's not it. Begins on page 45, so you'll notice like half the document is the implementation and action plan. You will see actions for each strategy. There is a lead department or organization that's been identified as being responsible for each action item. There's timelines for implementation and measures of success for each strategy. And again, remember, it's a 10-year strategy, so the implementation timeline is organized into 2-year segments. So for example, an action that's proposed to begin in 2022, 2023 may not start until 2023. Recognizing our current capacity at the city, we have tried to minimize the 2022, 2023 actions to be realistic. But there are certain things that we do want to accomplish in the next 2 years, and some things, again, that we have some grant funding for that we'll want to get through, because I'm still going to wear my grant hat. I'll crack that whip. Where the cells are filled with color indicates when the action is occurring, so either when it starts or in some cases the actions continue right through to 2031, so they're ongoing actions. And that also gives us some flexibility again, so if something can't start in 2024, maybe it can start in 2025.
Mm-hmm. And this is a plan based on no more local states of emergency.
That's right. That's right. But like every plan, they're not meant to be a stagnant document. Things happen. They should be revisited and reviewed. And ideally, we take from this plan annual work plans for each department. And in some cases, these spread outside the city, these actions. I've assigned tasks to everyone in the city. No, just kidding. But there's definitely, there are things that are not just city responsibilities within this plan, and it's all about how we work together to support economic development. The final section of the document is appendices, and here's where you will find more information on the economic background, how this document links to other city plans and document, including regional and provincial documents, more information on the environmental scan and a SWOT analysis, as well as the community engagement responses so far. So we'll talk about next steps in a minute, but what we have so far is already in here, and we'll include later input once we have it. And
can I ask, the Thriving Communities Labor Market Study by Community Futures, Thompson Country, and Nicola Valley, and the city. Have we seen that report?
I would hope you'd seen it. It was published. Yes. There was a big
it says 2020, February 2020.
Right before COVID. But there was actually a launch event, and I'm guessing that was in February as well, because it was right before COVID. There was an actual event with people gathered. It's a really great document. I think some things have probably changed in the labor market since the time of the study, but it was really well done. I have one copy, and I have an electronic copy, and it's on our website.
Oh, it is?
Under the documents, yeah.
Thank you. I'll find it then.
It's Thriving Communities Labor Market Study, I think it's called.
Thank you.
No problem. And then Appendix E is all the reference documents and links to those documents, so you can enjoy some further reading if you like. The next steps, we hope to have an online community survey up on the website hopefully tomorrow at some point, and collecting final input into the strategy by June 13th with revisions and final design and some editing that I've already found by June 22nd, with our final presentation to Council on June 28th.
And your last day with us?
June 28th. But not really. It's just the last day as the Economic Recovery Advisor. Yeah.
And that's the grant through
ETCBC, that's right. And we did get some other funding through ETCBC for a different focus position in economic development. So we're currently seeking that position, as well as the Economic Development Manager position.
And how does the Disaster Resiliency and Recovery Program, the one BC EDA did, how does that fit into here? Does it fit in here at all? Is it usable?
Some of it fits really well. Although I wasn't able to share this document, I mean, I have now, but I wasn't able to share this document with the BC EDA at the time they were compiling theirs. I did share the draft OCP because we had that available in October. And so some of the strategies that were in the OCP, I think, were missed by the BC EDA. we also had some discussions. Some of the things recommended by the BC ADA are additional or perhaps proprietary solutions to problems. So I know they mention a labor market website. That's one potential opportunity. I don't know that it's a city initiative, but it might be one way. It might align with the workforce development strategy. They also mention, I think it's an open for business web platform. And again, that's a proprietary software system. Perhaps not necessarily the city. We have our Munisite GIS system, gives lots of information. And, maybe a chamber or something like that would be interested in the open for business. There's possibly some other things to explore, but definitely needing our ACDEV manager, I think, in place to see what else can be tacked on or works in alignment. They're not competitive. It's just sort of different ways of looking at things. And
it makes sense if they haven't looked at the OCP, because that's the first thing I said is, have these people looked at our OCP and have they looked at our strategic plan, because it didn't seem to connect at that point.
Yeah, and I did provide.
But they did have some great ideas.
Yeah, I did provide them with the strategic plan as well. It was sort of, here's the city documents that would feed into that I can give you at this time. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Ms. Moore? Seeing none. I'm sorry. Did I look right by you when I looked over that way?
I didn't turn it on until you. Thank you. Just not a question, a comment. I think this is a fantastic document. It's another fantastic document that has come through you guys, and I'm just so grateful. I think that so much has been done to put us on a path. You've given us a strategic plan that's integrated into our entire community. It's all a result of engagement. The voices of the community have been heard. You can see it all in here. Nothing's been overlooked or forgotten or left out. And I think, this is part of the path that we lead ourselves out of what can be perceived as a negative image. I think that has been a cultural norm that settled into Merritt. Why that happened, only the past can say, but now we've got such a strong strategy to pull ourselves out of it. I think it's amazing. Thank you.
Good comments, thank you. Seeing no others, I agree. I think Councillor Freer has wrapped it up pretty well for all of us. It's a great document, and thank you for that. So, seeing no other wish to speak, I will thank you for your presentation, and we will terminate this meeting.